When it comes to performance, high-end laptops are getting pretty close to their desktop counterparts with more and more powerful specs. Sure, there are some trade-offs, but it's impressive to see how far gaming laptops have come. Today we have with us a similar high-performance laptop from ASUS, the ROG G703. So let's dive in and check out how powerful it actually is. Before that, don't forget to subscribe to TechFix and hit that bell icon so you can stay updated with all our latest content. The ROG G703 is definitely made for the most serious of gamers, which is reflected both in its design and specs. It packs in a factory overclocked i9-9980HK, a 200-watt RTX 2080, 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, 1.5 terabytes of SSD space, and a 1 TB hard drive. Which means that it is quite big and chunky because with great power comes a big form factor. On the plus side, the sides are adequately ventilated as well as the back, and an RGB backlit ROG logo sits on one side of the lid, which itself is lathered in a brushed metal finish. Instead of a sleek design, it opts for a rugged look and doesn't go overboard with the RGB stuff, finding the right balance between function and form. When it comes to I/O options, this thing is loaded. On the left side, you can find a USB Type-C Thunderbolt along with a USB 3.1 Type-A port, a LAN port, and 3.5mm audio jacks, while the right side has two more USB 3.1 Type-A ports and a card reader. The back side has one HDMI port, a mini display port, and two charging ports. That's right, this big boy requires two power bricks to utilize its full potential. While laptops are moving towards slim bezel screens, the G703 is having none of that. The laptop's crisp 17.3-inch Full HD 144Hz IPS panel is surrounded by big bezels, which personally doesn't bother me much because the display in itself is pretty impressive. It's a G-Sync display with a 3ms response rate, which means that you can say goodbye to screen tearing and actually take full advantage of the high frame rates. The colors look good enough for gaming. We saw no discernible bleeding on the sides, and though a high resolution option would have been a bonus, I think most gamers would rather go for the 144Hz refresh rate. One thing that I absolutely love about this laptop is the keyboard. Simply put, it feels amazing. It's comfortable, the keys are well spaced, the travel distance feels quite good, and the tactile response is great. And it also comes with per-key RGB lighting and N-key rollover. There's also a bunch of dedicated keys neatly tucked in a row for volume, toggling the mic, accessing the armory crate, etc. It's convenient and one of the closest typing experience I've had to a desktop keyboard. That said, I do have one issue. The laptop has a pretty thick base, so the profile is actually higher than other laptops, which makes using the keyboard kind of inconvenient when kept on a table. The trackpad, on the other hand, is bog standard. I mean, it's not bad, the gestures are responsive and there are physical buttons for left and right click, but there's nothing too special about it. So, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the performance now. We've complained about the laptop being big and heavy, but that's a trade-off for it packing some of the most powerful hardware you'll find in the market, which is reflected quite well in the benchmark because there's absolutely nothing that this laptop cannot handle. It blows through games and productivity apps with the same ease as a hot knife through butter. The size also helps with thermals and cooling, as the max GPU temperature we saw was about 78 degrees Celsius, and while the CPU did touch 100 degrees while stress testing, the top surface and the keys were still cool enough to be used without causing any discomfort. The fans though can be heard hard at work, and once you put this thing on turbo mode, you will require headphones. There are 4 speakers in this laptop which are on the louder side of the spectrum and deliver high quality sound that's good for both playing games or enjoying a late night movie. The ROG G703 has a lot of things to love about it, but in a real world scenario, we need to consider the practicality of a device like this. Let's face it, if you think you're going to be carrying this laptop around with you every day, that'll be tough because it weighs close to 4.5 kilos and that's without the power bricks. This is for people looking for a desktop gaming experience but don't want to buy a full-size desktop. Technically, it is a laptop, but with somewhat limited degree of portability, and chances are it's mostly going to be sitting on your table, much like a desktop computer. And it can definitely be a desktop replacement considering the no compromise performance. Sadly, what makes high-end devices like these a hard sell is the price point, and this one starts at about 4 lakh rupees. But if you're somebody who's already thinking about buying this laptop, chances are you've considered the pros and cons, and budget isn't exactly an issue for you because this is by no means made for the budget conscious. And in that case, it's not hard to recommend. For the average gamer, however, I'd suggest you go and build your own PC or get a pre-built, or look for a more affordable option when it comes to laptops if that's what you're after.